Welcome to this very special nonsense cast in which I'll talk about Dune 2021, which is what I'm gonna call Denis Villeneuve's Dune. And I'll also be testing my new lav mic. So if the audio quality is a bit iffy on this one, well, you kind of know why. But yeah, I really want to test out the lav mic because it's so nice to be able to have complete use of my hands. So Dune 2021, before we begin, I need to make it clear that I will be discussing, I won't be discussing story spoilers, but I will talk about things that happen in the movie, things that are present in the movie, and things that are present in the book and in the movie. So expect some spoilers from both of these things. Not major ones though, more like general atmospheric sort of spoiler things. And I'm gonna start with the least amount of spoilers. The first part of the video is gonna be about movie making stuff, about what how the film looks and sounds and stuff like that. Considerably less spoilers there. And once we get into the more story specific things or character specific things, I'll let you know that more spoilers, the spoilers that are a bit more important will be coming up, so you can switch off if you haven't seen it. Okay, so the first thing that I have to mention about Dune 2021 is that if you can, I suggest your first viewing should be in the cinema. Now, obviously, only if the region where you live in is safe and you can go out without a lot of danger to your health. Also, I'm not one of those people who is like, oh yes, cinema must be experienced in the theater, otherwise it is somehow less authentic. As fuck all to do with that. A piece of art should do, especially this type of video art, should do what it does regardless of its surroundings. But why you should try to see this first in the cinema is because of the absolutely stellar and layered sound design, as well as the soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack is momentously great. Hans Zimmerman just knocks it out of the intergalactic park yet again. Also making something that I wasn't expecting to hear the things. I wasn't expecting to hear those sort of themes in this soundtrack, but I was very pleasantly surprised to discover something that I was not expecting, something great. So for one, the soundtrack is momentous, but the sound design is very important to experience in the cinema, because you literally need gigantic amounts of ohms, of potential of decibels, and lots of speakers properly programmed to evoke the layered sort of experiences in various, because the movie makes use of specific sound design in particular scenes, particular lines especially have saying too much particular. Certain lines have a different sort of stress put upon them when you hear them in the cinema. So that's why it would be ideal to see, for your first viewing of Dune 2021, to be in the cinema. Besides, if you can watch it on the largest screen possible, that would also help with the experience, because this is it shows lots of vastness. And it helps drive home the idea of how large Arrakis is. Yeah, by the way, so I'm kind of assuming, and you'll have to forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm kind of assuming most people who go watch Dune are at least sort of familiar with the novel. But I know for a certainty that there's gonna be lots of them who aren't. So quick sort of synopsis of Dune, which is odd to say. This is this combines the first 3 books. There is 6 in total. the main universe, and then there's a bunch of other ones that were written by Frank Herbert's son in association with some other writers. The main canon, let's say, that everyone agrees upon is the books written by Frank Herbert. Dune takes place in the year 10191 in our sort of reality, in the very distant future of human civilization. Humanity has access to interstellar travel, but interstellar travel is only possible because of this special substance called the spice, which is only present on this one planet called Arrakis, also known as Dune, because it is an entirely desert planet. Human society, human civilization now is basically ran under a sort of a feudal system. There is an empire, there's an emperor as the representative of the empire. There's grand noble houses, and there's the Navigators Guild. And these three sort of entities live in a type of balance of espionage and assassinations and political intrigue and such. And there is a couple of other things. There is a couple of other important players here and there, such as the Bene Gesserit or the Mentat School. But that's kind of like the general setting. It takes part in the very distant future. There's this unique substance, the spice on Arrakis, which not only allows the navigators to travel interstellar distances, but it also increases human lifespan, and more relevant to the protagonist, it also enhances one's awareness and enlarges their consciousness, basically. It allows people to be way more conscious of their positioning in space-time. Which is also kind of why the navigators use it as their fuel, basically their catalyst to go between stars, because it allows them to see a little bit into the future, so they can plot the correct course. Anyway, the technology in the movie looks very monolithic, or better said, it looks kind of like megalithic. There's these the ships especially are these gigantic blocky sort of things without a lot of details on them that would give us any sort of sense as to what they are or what they do. In art or design, we call these things black boxes, in the sense that you only know what they do. You don't know how they do it. You have no knowledge of their component parts. You just know that, you know, they do this thing, or they need this fuel, and then they do this thing. That's kind of how technology looks, which is super cool, super intense, very Möbius-like. The technology, as well as a bunch of the costume design, I have to say, really reminded me of Möbius's style, which could be on purpose, since Möbius was the concept designer and storyboard artist for Jodorowsky's Dune in the 70s, which never got made. There's a separate documentary about that. We might talk about that at a certain point as well, but you can track down the documentary if you want to find out more about that idea and how that actually influenced sci-fi ever since, much like the novel has. AO novel. Also, again, related to the sound design, in the book there's a lot of particular attention paid to the secret ways in which the characters communicate with each other, especially through various types of hand signals. And that's something that is almost non-existent in the 1984 Dune. And in this one, there is a lot of hand signals in this one, which I really loved seeing. It's a very nice world building sort of layer, and I was happy to see it exist. Likewise, the various houses and factions speak their own languages, which that's also cool. And the sound design comes in when the voice is used as well, which is a special ability that the protagonist and his mom have. Again, very mild spoilers here. Ooh, personal shields. Personal shields are super cool. Now, I like how they were interpreted in David Lynch's Dune in 1984. nowadays with the CG capabilities now, they look really nice. And what I enjoyed most was the sort of gamer kind of approach to them, because the shields are meant to protect from high-speed moving objects penetrating. So bullets, that sort of stuff, bullets, arrows, any sort of stuff would just bounce off. And when they bounce off, the shield glows blue. The only way in which you can pierce the shield is with a slow blade, and when the shield is being pierced, it looks red. So that, I really enjoyed that, like red for damage, blue for health. I really enjoyed that that particular touch. And there's one scene where it makes where you can see it as such. It's basically kind of like a video game, what you see, like two armies clashing, which is fun. One issue sort of here until we get into the story stuff. This isn't a spoiler, this is in the trailer. Liet Kynes was gender swapped. Now I can hear the purists. He's a dude in the book. Fair enough. You can also argue that the Fremen society is a patriarchal society. Also fair enough. But Liet Kynes' gender doesn't affect the story at all. A minor gripe or major gripe some people might have. I don't give a shit. It's fine. Now let's go into the story related stuff, and this is where we're gonna get with a bit more more story related spoilers, and also from the book, so keep that in mind. There's a lot, especially in the first half of the movie when the Atreides are still on Caladan. There's a lot of focus and a lot of talk about the old Duke, which was Paul's grandfather, Leto's father. The guy died in a bullfight. That was what he did for fun. And there's also a lot of talk in the book about this at the beginning as well. And it was interesting to see Villeneuve focus on this and use this as like a framework for symbolism to a certain degree. We see the bullhead that killed the old Duke. We see the old Duke's mausoleum crypt thingy, sarcophagus, I guess. And Paul also has this tiny statue of a bullfighter. And all of these things are somewhat foreshadowing, because there is at a certain point around the climax of the movie, there's this scene where a particular character and the bullhead are shown in the same frame, and that's where you connect the dots. So that was cool. That was very interesting. That was a very particular choice that was executed very well from a storytelling perspective. Even though the protagonist is Paul Atreides, even in the book, it's not only his adventure per se. It's generally him and his mother. And Jessica is a very complex sort of character, an interesting character as well in the book, and we get to know her a lot better in the book, obviously, because in the book we get to read their internal monologues and everything of that sort. So we know how complicated and calculating of a figure she actually is, and we get something similar in this movie but different, which I found to be good and refreshing. And don't get me wrong, all of the acting in the movie is really good. It's also true that maybe not everything that is conveyed on screen will make sense if you really don't know the book, but hopefully most of that gets turned into like a mystery, not knowing, and the people who see it and don't really understand still love it, and maybe they get interested into actually reading the book. Yay, which is something I did in preparation for the movie, and something I'll do on stream. I'm not gonna read the book on stream, I'm gonna do text analysis on stream, but that's for the future. Back to Jessica. Jessica is played by an actress, her name is Rebecca Ferguson. And so in the book, Jessica is a very calculated, calm, kind of statuesque sort of character. That's how she's been trained to be. That's what is expected of her as a Bene Gesserit concubine. But reading the book, you, like I said, you get to know what's going on in her mind and in her thoughts and feelings. And you know that the truth is kind of different. I mean, she gains control of her feelings, but on the inside there are several times when she is very close to losing it properly. Well, you can't really do that on film. You can, but then it could make it look super disjointed, weird. It could also create confusion for the viewer. Instead, what Villeneuve did, and probably with the actress, is Jessica in the movie alternates a bit. There are certain moments of intimacy, generally when she's alone, when you can see her break down more or less. And that's very important for her character because it contrasts with the other scenes in which she is surrounded by other people and which she is prim, proper, and gives orders and that sort of stuff. And that's just the thing. In the movie, in a movie with a lot of good acting, her character Jessica is the one that has stayed with me the most. It's the one that felt most complete, most realistic, I want to say, sort of most easier to relate to. Maybe possibly because I'm in my mid-30s now and I don't relate with teenage characters anymore. I much more relate to their parents, probably, obviously. But I found her portrayal especially being very nuanced, and that's the one acting choice, the one acting spotlight that I want to mention especially. That's the thing that stayed with me. Everything else is really good and cool, and we'll probably see more from Chalamet in part 2 and from Zendaya as well as Stilgar. But this one, this first movie was definitely, I feel it was definitely Jessica's sort of thing. Even though, don't get me wrong, the movie is focused on, and we see it kind of from the perspective of Paul. But yeah, her role and her character really stayed with me, and it still stays with me. It was powerfully done, very well done. Now for something a bit less, also story related, but less deep. There's some date palms planted in the town city where the Atreides move into. And the thing is, on Arrakis nothing can grow. The very few shrubbery type plants that do grow are there only because the Fremen planted them, and they take care of the plants. They make sure they have enough moisture. The date plants in the book are planted there by the Harkonnen as a show of their dominance, and the Fremen hate them. In this one, and this is definitely this tiny scene was put in here to foreshadow what's going to happen later on, is they switched everything. They changed the background of the date palms to something that the Fremen love, and and they're sacred because they're the symbol of an old dream, which is a nice sort of throwaway sort of scene, but it's something that's gonna be built into something much grander later on in part 2, or possibly way in subsequent movies, which I'm not gonna get into because that's deep spoilers from the book. Oh yeah, and the other sort of story-related thing that drew my attention because of its absence, not because of it is that there's lots of talk about the worms, there's lots of talk about spice, so that newcomers get a better idea of what is what and where. But as far as I remember watching the movie, there was no mention of the link between the worms and the spice, and that's sort of like a gigantic linchpin of the world, of Dune's world, of Arrakis's actually world. The spice is a linchpin of the entire universe, and the relationship between worms and spice is a linchpin of life on Arrakis. So I found that a bit weird, although granted, that might possibly come in part 2, in which Paul and Jessica will absorb into Fremen society and stuff will happen. I don't want to get into that. Those are spoilers. There could be obviously way more stuff to talk about Dune. But yes, Dune 2021, spectacular movie. Great to see, great to hear. Looking forward to rewatching it many times once I get it on on some streaming computer thingy. As far as future content is concerned, hold, because there's a lot more Dune coming your way. I'm gonna talk besides the Dune talk stuff podcast pilot I posted earlier. I'm gonna talk about the 1984 movie, which I love. I know, but I actually love that movie. I'm gonna talk about a Dune game, a video game. I'm also gonna talk about some other stuff that's gaming related, but not necessarily a game. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, I plan on doing Dune text analysis streams. So basically, I'll go through the entire first book on stream. Hopefully, entire first book. We'll see. We'll see if people show up. So I'm gonna beforehand I'm gonna tell you which portion we're gonna talk about, and we're literally gonna talk about interesting things I found in the text, things that I thought could be more should be more analyzed, more talked about than you would do initially. But yeah, that's for future plans. Bunch of Dune stuff. There's also gonna be a special Halloweeny type episode towards the end of this month, obviously. Hopefully the lav mic doesn't sound really bad. Looking forward to hear it basically and see how much I can play with it, work with it so that it doesn't sound really bad, because I really want to use it going forward. Anyway, you guys and girls, let me know what you thought about Dune 2021 in the comments. Liked it, didn't like it, what did you like, what you didn't, stuff like that. Or ask me some questions related to anything related to my future Dune plans. Anyway, I've been Steve for Nonsense. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and maybe you'll see me next time on Arrakis or not.